Well, ain't this fun? How you guys doing? Hello, hello. Hello, hello. What is the word? How you guys doing out there? What is going on today? And welcome. Oh man, my hair is all in need of some attention. Welcome to the dark side of the room. I am Solar Gray, the cinematic sorcerer, and I would like to welcome you to a special Sunday edition. Now, we are still working on quite a few. Hang on, wait, bring that music back. Yeah, we're working on quite a few things. There we go. Yeah, working on quite a few things to bring everything to you guys in ways that are awesome and fun and all of those things. We got some special guests coming in today, and we are going to be talking about a subject that is very near and dear to me. Okay, very near and dear, very important, and that is the importance of good teaching, what bad teaching looks like, and of course, how we can all learn to be better teachers. So if you guys got questions, or if you want to throw in your 2 cents over there, feel free to send me an email, because I will check if I get the little notification on my little electronic leash that I have somewhere around here. But yeah, send an email to backinthedeck@gmail.com. That's BACKINTHEDECK@gmail.com. You can also send me a tweet at backinthedeck, or say what's up on Instagram, also at Back in the Deck. We are working on a TikTok currently, and if you were part of that wretched hive of scum and villainy known as Facebook, then you can come on over to, well, how can I put this? Yeah, you can come on over to, Deckers on the Book on Facebook, and drop a like, drop a comment, say what's up, show us what you're building, what games you're playing, tell us who you're teaching what to and why that's important. Now, for some of you other guys that want to help us out and keep the doors open, why? Because we need to do this. We got bills to pay and all that other stuff. Head on over to patreon.com/BID_P, where you can become a patron for as little as $1 a month. That's right, for as little as a bag of Cheetos. You can help us keep the doors open and get some very cool prizes and incentives, like early access to stuff and, specialized episodes, because people are talking to me all the time and they're like, man, you should do an episode about this. And I'm like, why not throw some money at it? That'd be kind of cool, because I gotta buy materials and stuff like that. And that is one of the things y'all can do to help us out over here. So we're talking about today, we're going to be talking about something very important. As I said, we're going to be talking about the importance of good teachers and some of our experience with good ones, with bad ones, how to become better ones, and about the process of learning. Now, y'all might be thinking, what does this got to do with games? Well, if ever you have tried to pick up a role-playing game at all, Dungeons and Dragons, Vampire the Masquerade, Rifts, Inomine, Pathfinder, or if you've tried learning board games or collectible games or learning anything new, or if you've ever tried asking a question on any internet forum, then you guys have been through some of the stuff that we have been through. And what are you talking about? We, man, are you speaking in the royal sense? No, I'm not speaking in the royal sense, because I've got a couple of guests with me today. I want to say what's up to two of my closest friends that don't live in Southern California. From the Metropolis Collective, we've got the Ruthless Wonder himself, Mr. M. Williams, and our favorite dude from the Chat Attack, Tat. We're talking the man, the myth himself, Mr. Ganja. What is up with you guys today?
Hello, how y'all doing?
Hey, how's everybody doing? I'm
Yeah,
back.
that's right. So
I heard you missed me in my voice.
Yeah.
I have returned.
Oh yeah. That's right. All right. So it is good to have you guys back on the show. I got to give a shout out to my peeps over in NP City. What is going on? My Deckers, my Decker crew, my Deckers out there. Seriously, y'all, I am loving that you guys are there. And hello to my folks on YouTube, because we have been going live on YouTube because that's part of our new I guess you can say our new thing. I'm checking the screen. Keyframe frequency of 4 seconds or less. Oh man, that's what I'm working on. So what's going on, everybody there on YouTube? It's good to see you guys there. It's good to see you guys over here on Twitch. Major shout out to Gaming Fix and Clever Little Vixen holding it down like she do, because that is what the Vixen does. I swear she is like my top decker. I'm serious. She's like at every episode, and of course all this stuff going on. Uh-oh, we've got a world-class archer in the house. What is going on, Miss Animal Tees? And thanks everyone for showing up. This really means a lot to me. So now that we've got all that stuff, thank you guys for showing up. If y'all want to know more and all that jazz, it's super easy. I put descriptions in the I put links in the description all the way down there in the description on YouTube. Y'all know how to get a hold of us on Twitch. I'm double checking to make sure that we are muted in the way that we need to be muted.
Have we
Yeah,
already announced
and oh no, I'm not raiding the channel right now. I'm talking to you guys. Really? I mean that's the thing. So, my channel. Wait, no, where's my dashboard? There we go. All right, that is what I'm looking at right there. So now that we are in and saying what's up to everybody, let's get on to this, man. So I am a middle-aged man. Okay, I'm a middle-aged man. And there are certain things that come with being a middle-aged man that you have. There's a few moments. There's some things that come up where you have to really start thinking about your life and your love and your tragedy and all that stuff that has come down over time, if you will. Okay. And I remember when I was young, I used to have to go to this place every single day called high school. And I hated that place. Not because I didn't like my peers. I actually really liked my peers. They had a whole lot of private jokes that happened primarily in their heads. So that's a thing. But I didn't have the greatest of teachers from high school on. Okay. But I learned some stuff. I went to college and I learned a lot in college. I learned how to read even more extensively and how to write term paper after term paper after term paper after term paper. But I did learn some critical thinking skills, which was very, very, very cool. And as I've gone through life, I've learned quite a bit of things that actually make me reflect back to junior high, which is when and where I had the best teachers I've ever had in my life. These people were putting me through a mentorship and I didn't even realize it. And as I've gone forward, I've become a teacher of a great many things: dance, fire stuff, and lots and lots and lots and lots of games. Now, that's my backup. That is my qualification and all that stuff. But every single one of you guys and every single person that you know has been or will be in a position where they have to teach. And coming from my humble beginnings, because I grew up a smart black child. When I went to the suburbs, there were a lot of things from an anthropological level that I didn't quite understand. Okay. A lot of stuff from an anthropological level being, I didn't understand the suburban culture. I didn't understand, how to balance a checkbook, how to manage a savings account, which is really big. And one of the things I noticed is that every single environment that you're in, the people that live there take it as a given that what they know is universal. And this is where good teachers become important. Because in order to be a good teacher, in order to have a good teacher, in order to teach effectively, a teacher has to first understand, before anything else, what the student does know and what they don't. Okay? A lot of people like to come in with this idea of, I'm going to teach someone something and I'm going to teach it to them the way that I learned. And one of the questions I like to ask is, when you learned it, did you know absolutely nothing, or did you have a basis of something? This is really big because growing up in the hood, we speak a different language of English. We have our own pidgin. And I'm from California, Los Angeles, and I will tell you, every stereotype you've seen about like the people that grew up in the valley asking why, like, what is your damage? Why are you so very right now? It's not exactly false. Um, and we have this idea, just as people, that everyone knows the stuff that we know very well, or they don't know things that we don't know. Have you guys noticed this within your spheres of teaching and interacting with other people? I'm asking the panel. Panel. Oh,
That's actually
yeah.
hear. You hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, perfect. When it comes to me, like it's hard to really say because for a lot of times when I like if I'm teaching people certain things because I like to teach certain political philosophies to certain people within my sphere of influence, and if they're not really have the background on it, it's kind of really hard to meet them where they're at because a lot of it I feel is built up with kind of like personal interactions to really try to get messages across or try to educate them in certain ways. So me personally, I always felt like the personal approach is best because a lot of people tend to learn more from general education, and that's never been the case for me. I always need some kind of special attention, and a lot of times in schooling like that, you didn't get that, or even in your own personal spheres. Like there was a lot of times growing up on the reservation that a lot of my elders and like people in my older generations kind of assumed I knew stuff just because I came from the same community background as they did, but completely forgetting that my parents are different. I have a different cultural background. I'm actually from a reservation. I'm from in a mixed family. My mom's Puerto Rican. My dad is Seminole. So more things I got taught Spanish wise than I got taught indigenous wise. And that always clashed with some of the locals in my community that rather than teach me, educate me, they just criticize me for not knowing already,
Ah,
but not personally teach me. They think I should just generally know.
well, that actually leads directly into the first subtopic that we're going to talk about. But what about you, Ruthless? Okay. Well said.
Oh, that is my line is going dead on me there. Um, I think we fixed it here. You know, hmm, I think that's it. Yeah, run that back on me real quick. We'll have to get back to you on that one. That was a
Okay.
I was too busy focusing trying to get the headset working there on you.
Ah, gotcha. Technical stuff. Technical. I get it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so well, the first subgenre that we are going to talk about today. Let's get into poor teaching habits. All right.
All right.
I want to see some thumbs up or some emojis in our chats if you guys have actually experienced what I'm about to talk about. Okay. And this is the get good, or wait a second, hang on a minute. Yeah. And this is the get good and you've got to figure out philosophy. Okay. I have a lot of friends and I know a lot of military people. And the military way of training things is very boot camp. Now, here's the way that boot camp goes. You sign up, they shave your head, and they break you. They force you to unlearn most habits and most philosophies that you've learned over the course of your life so that they can rebuild you as a soldier. Okay? Um, and their methodology of doing this is not gentle. because they don't have a lot of time. The United States Marine Corps boot camp is about 4 months long, and that is the longest boot camp that there is. That is the absolute longest. I think Army is like 6 weeks, Navy is like a month. But the most you're getting is 4 months. So they've got 4 months to unmake you and then make you into the soldier that they need. That is a Herculean task that cannot be done gently. Um, and when I went into the real world, there was a lot of things I didn't know that had to do with the real world. Not because I was unintelligent, but because there were things in the suburban world that I didn't have access to as an underaged boy that grew up in the ghetto. Certain things like Target, didn't have access to those things. Um, the standard ideas of what resources were, or perspective of resources from one class of people to another class of people. A lot, I was growing up a lot, and it was, oh, you don't have your driver's license? Well, why don't you just go and take a driver's instruction course? And I'm like, those got cut from my school's budget the year I turned 16. Not that I'm bitter, but even beyond that, there are no driving instruction schools where I was living. I still don't, I've recently moved back there, and I don't think there are any driving instructions. Give us money, we'll give you a car, we'll teach you what you're doing, and then take our piece of paper to the DMV and you've got your thing. And they're like, well, no, there's just one at the college. It's only $250. And I'm like, only? Do you know what I make? Type of thing.
Shit, only.
Right? It's only $250. What's your whole
I know
thing?
5 people right now. That's the electricity and cable right there.
Right? But for some people, $250 is, there's what is reasonable in the field and what's reasonable in practice. And most people who instruct are always instructing from the standpoint of the field and not from where their students are coming from. And this is where we come into the you've got to find a way. I was a very angry person in my 20s and 30s. And the primary reason was I had a lot of people telling me that I've got to get my crap together. And I had no idea how to do it, especially when I was in a lot of places where racism was real, but no one burned a cross or dropped an N-bomb. So my friends that didn't understand what I was up against were measuring me by the metric that they lived by, assuming that I lived by the same metric. Okay. So it really came down to what? All you got to do is do this. I'm like, I filled out 45 job applications and turned in 30 resumes, and I haven't gotten one call back, so what am I doing wrong? Well, you got to figure that out. Huh?
On that particular subject,
Yeah.
I had an awakening that wouldn't have happened if I did not go to the church I grew up in.
Mm-hmm.
I'll never forget this. This is a really important moment. I want people to kind of understand how where you meet someone in life can make a difference in a lot of things. I was 11 years old, sitting in vacation Bible school. Some people, of course,
I was about to make a joke about 11-year-olds sitting up and wearing a suit, and you had to bring up church.
Well, I'm saying this happened in church, in this vacation Bible school. I was actually not in a suit, but I was definitely in nicer clothes than I would usually run around in the summer. I'm sitting there, and one of the kind of late 30s, early 40s guys at the church is talking to us, just the guys. And he's trying to explain to us, because he's got the girls are there too, but he's directing this advice at us about, what your future is going to be like, and to kind of demystify high school and college and everything afterwards. And he's like, watch something. I said, okay. He's like, young ladies, what do you think a boy should have to date you? Now, again, we are middle school kids and high school kids.
Oh, so a pulse wasn't the proper answer.
Right. So They said, well, he should have a car, a job, and be getting ready to get an apartment when he turns 18. Now, one of the high school girls said that. So I can kind of understand because you're in high school at that point. You should be looking at post high school stuff. Fine, whatever. But she said that. She said, "All right, now which one of y'all has a job doing anything, cutting grass, anything?" I raised my hand, like, yeah, because whenever I was at a school, Dad took me to the dealership, and I had to go wash cars and get ready, tell if cars get ready to be that were getting ready to be sold. So I had money when I needed it, and of course I had to cut the grass, and I got paid to do that too. But yeah, I got a little something. He's like, all right, there's four of you that actually do anything at all, and he, meaning me, is the only one that has anything that's consistent.
Okay.
What do y'all think you're really after out here? And he said that. And he said, now let me tell you a story. He said, I finished college. I had a good job. And the place I was working decided to downsize everyone. And so I got laid off. And I spent the next year and a half sending out 200 plus resumes and cover letters and applications. And I haven't heard from a single one of them. Not a single interview.
Yeah.
And it was at that moment that it crystallized in my brain. It's not going to be just that you have the talent and you're in the industry and you have the ability. It's going to be, did you get the break because somebody noticed you above someone else? And that comes into the people factor. That comes into who you know, not what you know. It comes into how you know them as well.
That right there, the connections and the assumed cultural inroad is a really, really big thing. And as angry as that makes me,
Mm-hmm.
that's for our meeting down at the docks on Tuesday. I'm just saying Tuesday night, bring a trench coat. And
I'll
yeah,
bring the
so
hats.
yeah, exactly, exactly. But what does this have to do with teaching and what does this have to do with gaming? You guys might ask. Well, um, picture this. You sit down with your friends and say, I want to show you how to play Dungeons and Dragons. Um, and they go, what is this, like a game? Or if they're from various hoods around the country, oh no, that's that devil thing, right? That's what the pastor told me is gonna have me possessed by demons. Um,
I'm ready to
and
play Satan.
huh?
I'm ready to play with Satan.
Okay, so um, when I talk to people about teaching them stuff, especially when it comes to these things, there's a lot of things I have to keep in mind. But the very first thing I have to do as a teacher, especially with role playing games, is one, meet them where they are. Okay. What is it that this lesson, or how will the lesson that you are trying to impart onto them, how will it affect what they know? Okay. I remember way back in junior high when I had amazing teachers. Okay. Um, the question I heard more than any other question from myself and from my peers was, where am I going to use this? Am I alone in that?
No,
You know, yeah, I mean,
not at all.
you
I
know,
heard it a lot.
yeah. Where am I going to use this? Why do I'm sitting up in the middle of Compton or in the middle of Watts and going, so what am I supposed to get out of our town? How does this affect our life, right? Now, as as an adult, I can see where our town was informative, because I've got decades of perspective. But at the time, why would I care? Okay. And when you're trying to teach people anything, even if they come to you asking, you have to understand why they care, how it affects them. And when you approach them from that perspective, the inroad to their retention of knowledge is huge. Okay. Now, when I was in my adulthood, there were a lot of things that weren't working out. And I had a whole lot of friends going, it's not because you're black. It's not because you're this. You just got to figure out what's wrong and how to navigate it. That's what you got to figure out. And I'm like, well, will you stop yelling at me until I do? Or how about sitting down with me and instead of telling me what it isn't, let's go through what it could be so that I know what to work on. But there's a lot of people who use those terms because they do not have the skill set of teaching. Okay. They do a whole lot of regurgitating. But they don't quite understand how information is imparted into the brain and how it sticks. Okay. So a good teacher will first meet the student where they are. Second, they will learn what language the student speaks in order to absorb this. Now, the place that I saw this really implemented is, believe it or not, the prestige television show of The Wire. Okay, there was, I believe it was season 3, where one of the teachers wanted to teach their kids statistics, but instead of sitting them down and pumping them through the quadrinomial equations and the analysis that comes in with the different types of algebra, he noticed the kids played a lot of craps, and he taught them probability via the dice they were already playing with. And those lessons stuck. Okay, have you guys ever had any moment where a teacher saw, like, not just a teacher in school, but a teacher in college or a mentor at a job, saw what was important to you and was able to incorporate your priorities into what needed to be done?
So I I had a few teachers that tried the money method to math.
Ah, we know that one. You can count money, so let's look at this.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I actually had this is actually kind of interesting. I had a high school teacher that was teaching a dual credit college course of college algebra, and we used the matrix to talk about like complex math equations. Basically, how like the entirety of what they do in the matrix with code is just a giant math problem.
Okay,
The first movie, like the very first Matrix movie. Yes, folks, I'm old enough for that.
okay,
Other than that, I would get word problems that were always weird, like they tried to stuff something in. But there is one professor that stands out above everyone else. This that happened to law school, so much later in life. But shout out to him, Mark Edelman, my sports law professor, and now just a very good friend, but I still call him Professor Edelman out of respect. Um, Professor Edelman has a way of teaching that will always keep you engaged. And despite using the Socratic method in class, like that's kind of normal for most college professors, much less law school professors. He even his problems on our tests and otherwise always utilized pop culture references that were relevant at the time he was using the test, not stuff that was older than I was, and like he always had up to date. Like this is a dude who like was a Kesha fan. Like we literally made him a Kesha fan on accident. Um, and so he would like slip stuff in like that into our tests and whatnot, and our fact patterns and things. And he was teaching a sports law class, which I had him for. And so he would slip in actual ongoing, like that year I had sports law in must have been the fall semester. So he was slipping in like results from NBA and NFL games into our fact patterns during quizzes during the class or in literally the actual exam at the end of the year. This is I want to put this in perspective. Mark Edelman is one of the foremost experts on sports law in the planet. Like this man has been quoted by the Supreme Court in in the American Needle decision. Like he's not to be played with when it comes to being an expert on this stuff. But he was taking the time to do that, and it wasn't because he's a giant sports fan. Like of course, but it was because he knew that would be an easy way to reach us. Because you got, I mean, you already have a room full of people who are sports fans. So why not put us on the test to make sure they know the information they can remember? I can recall stuff from his exam right now, and that's creepy.
Well,
So
honestly, that is a great example of what we're talking about today.
yeah.
I had a teacher that was explaining to us the effects of friction in a lesser oxygenated environment, um, where the effects of these scientific factors could vary between altitudes. Okay. For those of you guys that are listening out there are going, what is he talking about? He took us skiing and had us make measurements on at what rate were we going down the mountain, what different types of skis we used, what was the surface tension between the lengths of skis, and again he applied these things. I learned about magnetic inductions by playing with the slot cars, and I was fortunate with that. This was not because it was fun, but because he showed how the physical sciences were directly related to the things that we enjoyed, from video games to toys to comic books to adventure. I had an algebra teacher that explained to me what algebra was, which was problem solving when you don't know what you need. And I'm going, do tell. And she said, solve for X. X is the thing that you don't know that you need, but you still got to get, or you're not going to succeed at what you're trying to do. And I said, all right, I'm all in. I failed her class, but I did it on purpose just so that I could take it again. I was in junior high. What did you want? So when we sit down and when we are forced to be in an instructional position, okay, the first thing we have to ask is where they are. Number two, why does it matter? And I apply this to when I'm teaching martial arts or when I'm applying music. One of the major things that I do as a music teacher is I say, okay, when you come to me, the two things that you need to come to me with, outside of a desire to truly learn, is your own instrument. Here's a list of where to get them. And a list of 10 songs that you want to play. And when they do that, I tell them, cool. Now I have a list of 10 songs that I want you to learn how to play. And by the end of this year, you're going to know 20 songs and have an understanding of music. However, the longer it takes you to get this stuff in your head, the longer we'll stay on it. And this is the second part. And this is personal attention that's customized to not the person, but what they are having a hard time learning. You see, of course, we have to meet them where they are. Of course, we have to understand the language that they speak. And that leads us to, why aren't they getting this? Where is the stumbling block? Okay. We got Glenn right here. Where was it? Where Glenn here in the chat that said his thing is more direct language because the extra coded language confuses you. I am 100% there with you. I despise jargon. Okay. There's nothing that you do that's going to be jargon free. But when a person says science gack, reverse polarity and put it through the deflector dish, science gack, I'm like, do you want me to do something or you just want me to tell you how freaking smart you are? Because if you want to tell me how smart you are, oh, I can't live without you. Please give it to me now, you know. But if you want me to get the thing done, I need you to listen to what I'm having the problem with. And this is a really, really big thing. When we're communicating with people and trying to figure out where they're having the problem, we have to recognize what bad teachers look like. Number one, bad teachers are the ones that get frustrated because you should know this by now. If you guys don't know by now, I wasn't exactly a well-behaved child. Okay. I was very sarcastic. You know, I really was back then. And every time I said, I don't know what you're talking about, I would get the question, what do you mean you don't know? And I would be like, I, Solar T Gray, don't as in do not, the opposite of or lack of know, knowledge. Therefore, I, Solar T Gray, lack the knowledge of what you are asking. That is what I mean that I don't know. you know. Um, by the way, my mama's hands weighed 5 pounds, and mass increases with acceleration. Um, like I was saying. Um, but when it came down to it, I was very rarely asked, why don't you understand? Or what about this are you having a hard time understanding? Okay. But
Well,
one element,
that's the line again.
huh?
We talk about this line between the good teacher and the bad teacher.
Yes.
That's the line because a good teacher will hear that and say, okay, in this situation, what could cause my student of for whatever reason, whatever arena this is in, to not have this knowledge? Is it a lack of experience with the subject? Is it a lack of prior training by other individuals? Because we know not everybody has good teachers. Is this just a general fundamental misunderstanding of what is being required? And I won't always say to kind of, distinguish between us on this particular subject, that it is wrong to say, why don't you know this already? Because sometimes there are situations where that is a necessary thing to bring up. If somebody is in an advanced state of things and they don't have a fundamental grasp of the basic thing to get them there, you do have to go, why don't you know this already? Because you just professed an understanding of these concepts. But that's more the student puffing themselves up beyond their experience and training, and less the teacher forcing their previous background and training on a new student. That there is a difference, but I will say there are times, especially when you get into subjects like gaming, like if somebody comes up to me and says, "Oh yeah, I've played D&D for the last 10 years," and I say, "All right, cool. What's your favorite edition?" And you say, "What do you mean? What's my favorite edition?" I'm gonna say, "What are you talking about? Why don't you know this already?" But if somebody comes up and says, "Oh yeah, I've been playing FIFA and Madden, since 2005," and say, "Oh yeah, so you know how to do blah 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 already," and they say no, I'm gonna look at them like, that's strange. If you've been playing all these Maddens and FIFAs, you should know all of these things that I'm saying right now, because it should be sometimes exasperation use. When it's improper is when it's being used as a gatekeeping mechanism on knowledge. It's like, well, yes, I don't know this, not because I don't have an aptitude, but because I was never taught to know this thing, and I am new to this thing. You're right about meeting people where they are, but we have to also meet people where they've been taught. Because even if you've had the teachers, it doesn't necessarily mean they were good.
Oh, well, I want to make it clear. I'm not talking about coddling, okay? I'm talking about
Yeah.
understanding. But that brings up the thing that we're going to get to 2 topics from now. The next topic I want to bring up is undue competition, okay? Undue competition is very simple, okay? And this is something I go through whenever I'm teaching a game that doesn't say cooperative on the box, okay? And that place of where people are is a very, very, very simple place. Games are things that people do for enjoyment. Now, the human brain works in a very comparative way. This is just basic neurology, okay? So when people hear game, they think checkers, chess, any of the Milton Bradley games, Monopoly, Sorry, Candyland, Shoots and Ladders. They also think sports, basketball, baseball, football, soccer, football is life. Any of these things, they think, and they all have one major thing in common, which is there is a winner and there is a loser. We talked about this on the last show. Okay. And undue competition, this is something I've definitely seen in teaching very many things. And there's always the student that has this illusion that once the student becomes the master, they shall be the master of all, and they shall be able to create life with a thought and set fires with their mind. Which is cool, except
I don't like you talking about my weekends.
what?
I don't like you talking about my weekends like this.
Hey, I paid $250 for those private classes. Goddamn it!
Well, here's the thing. I'm not against competition at all. However, competition without context, i.e., it's great for the student to want to beat the master. It is great to want to be the best there ever was. To catch them will be your big test. To train them shall be your cause. Dated reference.
No,
However,
there's still a Pokemon out there.
however, to want to beat the master day one, your first lesson, like using karate as an example, you just put your gi on order. It hasn't been shipped by Amazon, and you are just finding out the address to the dojo. Now it is time to beat the Grandmaster. Have fun with that. Primarily because you're not going to learn. I had a friend about 17 years ago who was a professional writer, and he had gone back to college and got in a writing course. And I think it was 2 weeks into the beginning of the semester, he said, he's just going over this stuff and this stuff and this stuff. I know that already. And I'm like, all right, bro, I got two things. I have one statement, one question. Okay. Number one, you are not the only person in that class, according to what you've told me. And second, if you already know everything, then why are you taking that class? And he's like, I hate when you do stuff like that. And I'm like, dude, I'm not trying to beat you.
Just a laugh. Just a laugh.
So yeah, when it came down to that, I know when I sit down and I teach someone a board game, especially one that I just bought, I'm like, okay, so we're gonna sit down and we are gonna learn how to play Ticket to Ride. And they're like, I shall crush you. And I'm like, did you read the rule book? Well, no. Okay, so you're trying to beat me with what I'm telling you the interpretation of the rules are as far as I understand them. And I get that you like having competition, but first, let's learn. Let's learn how to do this, and then you can crush me like Dolph Lundgren does to Sylvester Stallone in the fourth worst Rocky movie. But a lot of people come in, and before they learn the moves, and everyone has been there, everyone has seen this, where the teacher does discouraging things, but a lot of the times the students just want to win. But it's the job of the teacher to understand that that's where the student comes from and to have preparations for that. I know a lot of people that come in and they try and beat me in a game. And my general thing is, okay, you win. Now play against this person who actually knows what they're doing and who won't just walk away when they're losing. And then that person tends to lose by turn 3, i.e., oh no, you licked me, you are so good at martial arts. Oh no, okay, cool. Now this is Twan. Twan smokes a lot of cocaine, so take what you beat me in martial arts with and beat him up. By the way, Twan, if you win the fight, I'll give you $50. Hajime! And things don't come up.
Hold on, Rufus. Hold on. I gotta put money on the cocaine dude.
I was like, are we gonna play white lines now? Is that
Okay. And notice I've not talked about bad students because I don't believe in a bad student. I really believe in an ineffective teacher that hasn't realized how to get the student excited. But these ineffective teachers, and I see them a lot in tabletop miniatures games and role-playing games, where the teacher will teach the new person everything that person needs to know to play, but not enough to beat them. And this is the number one thing. The number one thing, not that a good teacher does, but that a good teacher needs in order to be an effective teacher. And that is a separation of personal ego. Okay. I am number one. I had very good teachers that taught me one very important thing, which is every amazing teacher wants each of their students to surpass them, because the students that are better than the teachers that teach them are the ones that innovate the subjects. You know, can you imagine? Just imagine if Nikola Tesla's science teacher was like, nope, 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 can't let him get better than me. Nope, can't let that happen. No, 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 no.
Isn't that basically what happened?
You know, now, given that the major audience for this channel are people of color, women, LGBTQ plus, the disabled, and the fiscally disenfranchised, because the trailer park is on the other side of the city dump from the projects, we all know what that's like. We all know the people that are like, oh, this person's got potential, but they ain't gonna be better than me. I'm teaching them this game. I'm teaching them how to do this. But if they get better, then they'll get all the kudos, and I want kudos. So they always keep back that hidden technique. They always hide that one thing. Not
Is it
because
okay if I call something out?
feel free. That's what you're here for.
I feel like what you're talking about right now is the reason we have so many Reddit threads and YouTube channels dedicated to DMs, GMs, storytellers, however you want to describe yourself, talking about players breaking their encounters. Because a good DM, especially, because I definitely put this at D&D's door, and a
Yes?
good storyteller in general should never be afraid of their players realizing the flaws in the story they were telling. They should only find creative ways to move things forward.
Did you write The Matrix?
No. I am influenced by The Matrix because I was alive to see it in theaters. But I've always felt that that is a failing of the storytelling person, that either one, you left a wide open space for the player to walk through, or two, you're not creative enough to take what they've done and repurpose it into, if you feel like you still need to accomplish exactly what your story says. But I feel like they missed that because, just like you were saying earlier, we play these games as a collaborative team, collective experience. And the player is as much a part of the story as the storyteller is. And it feel like it is an internal failing of the storyteller to lay the blame at the characters for, quote, breaking their encounter or breaking their story. One of the best things ever in a game I have ever done involves my co-host here, Ganja.
Hello.
Absolutely decimating his party's chances of pulling off a quick resolution to something by helping cause a fight.
Well, I don't like the way that gremlin was looking at me.
He knows exactly what I'm talking about. They are in this. Let me set this real quick scene. I'll tell this a quick story and you go back to what you're doing. I don't want to take up too much time. But we're playing in Eberron. We are in the lower areas of Sharn, for those people who know exactly what I'm talking about. And they run across some goblins and other people who seem to be in groups looking as if it's religious ceremonies. They then try to get information out of these creatures, which honestly they weren't supposed to be getting information out of. It was kind of one of those, they're here, you're kind of in the wrong place, but you'll have to figure it out eventually. It's definitely a mystery portion to the story I was telling. And this guy decides to insult the goblins by, of course, referring to their height. And instead of backing down, getting closer with his weapon drawn. Now, any other time, I'd have been like, okay, I got to find a way to get them out of this without a conflict. But then I decided, no, let them see. Let's see what happens. Let's see how far they take this. They, of course, try to massacre the entire group, which touched off. He doesn't know this yet, because I'm never going back to this particular version of the story I tell. What they touched off was a goblin uprising that was going to essentially result in a second version of the Day of Mourning, where Sharn is destroyed the same way Sire was destroyed, or Kyre, or however you decide to say it. Yeah, all because I was like, this is such a great change to everything. Let's just see what kind of happens if I let this keep going. And that's exactly what happened. Like, that's good play. They had no idea that I had messed with what I wanted them to do. It kept the story going, and they had other fun that they did after that. Literally, the next session was them getting an XCOM style conflict adventure where they helped him take over the town he was from that had ostracized him before. And he had a great time. That was his first time playing with me.
That was great.
Well, I will definitely say I have no idea what you're talking about. It's not like I've ever had a player twerk at a guard and hit a natural 20 to distract them. But yeah, this is definitely one of those things where there are a lot of teachers or a lot of GMs. We got Glenn is on a tear today. He's like, but I spent all week on this. I'm like, well, two days of that week should have been about backups in case your players are competent.
I'm a Boy Scout. Always be prepared, baby. Always be prepared.
But yeah,
I feel his pain. I have a problem with large arching stories in my own creations as well.
But when it comes to a lot of these teaching methods, again, I say all the time that teaching is a skill, and much like skills, all of them must be cultivated. They must be cultivated and practiced. Even on the sitcom Scrubs, one of the doctors is like, if you've been out of medical school for 5 years or more, your stuff is out of date. I don't like reading all this stuff. I don't like going to all these lectures, but I got to stay on top of things if I'm going to be good at my job. So that being said, teaching is not for everyone, okay? However, if you are going to be stuck in that role, a lot of the things that you can do is to ask yourself as a teacher a myriad of questions, okay? Like, what does myriad mean? How can I meet, how can I
don't
meet...
call me out like that. I'm already Googling it.
Say Google's your friend. Go use it.
How can I meet this person where they are? What are they actually asking me to teach them? And in a lot of cases, why are they embarrassed for not knowing? And this brings me to the last part of today's sections, okay? America, I don't know how it is in a lot of other countries, okay? But in the United States, we have this idea over the past 2 generations. I'm an Xer, so I've been there, okay? I've watched all of this come down to where if a person doesn't know a hair split level of trivia, then they must not be skilled or not have any knowledge of something. Therefore, they should shut up. Okay? We have this competition in literal trivial knowledge. Okay? And this stuff has been and is used as a method of gatekeeping.
I blame Trivial Pursuit.
Yeah.
I blame Trivial Pursuit being a thing.
Now this has created a really big learning block in modern people nowadays, and that is embarrassment for not knowing something that they were never taught. Okay. I talk a lot about access. Okay. But But beyond access, what I see is a lot of gatekeeping, and here back in the deck, we're about kicking them gates open. Okay, we do have a guard because there will be no Nazis here on my watch, but the gate in and of itself, no, people got to come in. You know, um, my girlfriend and I, we come from two different social classes, and we grew up about 25 miles apart. And she learned certain things in school that I didn't have access to, and vice versa. So the assumption that we know nuances about certain subjects does not serve us in communication or from learning from each other. This is just a plain fact. Okay. So as a teacher, the number one one of the things that are on this list is to make sure that the person you're teaching doesn't feel embarrassed for not knowing something. Now, when I sit down at gaming tables, I get this all the time. A lot of people, and I'm doing a whole show on this week. A lot of people are afraid of being embarrassed because it's like, you didn't know the molecular weight of butane. And it's like, wait a minute. Do you know the molecular weight of butane? Like, I was just down at CVS and I didn't see a greeting card with that piece of knowledge. You know, that's very specialized knowledge with very specialized use in a very specialized field. And the idea of Delman is a bad football player because I beat him 4 games out of 5 at chess, and he's 19 years old, so he doesn't know who Joe Namath is, therefore he sucks at football, is absurd. It is absolutely absurd. No one, not teachers and especially not students, should have the expectation of knowing every letter of every single paper, published work, and note scribbled down on napkins at Denny's, Waffle House, and McDonald's about any particular subject. Okay? But since we live in a culture that mocks people for not knowing as much as that guy, people have a hard time expressing what they don't know. Okay? This manifests itself in my least favorite part of any literary endeavor, bathos, as in, or overused bathos, which is the literary tool of injecting humor in a situation to relieve any discomfort whatsoever. That is how it's overused. I don't like it because drama requires tension. Hey, sad, strange little man, how you doing? And how does this manifest? Well, how many people have been sitting here by emojis and thumbs up and bits? How many people here have been at a gaming table and there's one person that will not stop cracking jokes regardless of the scene? In most of my experience, they do this because they're not sure what's going on and they're afraid to ask questions. Okay? When I'm sitting down at a game table as a GM, I make it very clear that I go around the table giving everyone a set turn that no one can interrupt. And if that person wants to ask a question, they can. And if there's someone else at the table that's like, man, you should know this already, I look at that person and I give them a strike. 2 strikes, they can leave the table. Okay? But I'm a teacher and a GM. So that's one of the things I do, because cultivating an environment where it's difficult to learn makes it so that people cannot progress together. Especially with cooperative games. With cooperative games, it's not about beating the other player or even beating the GM. It's about having a collective experience where everyone at the table wins. Like when you're sitting down at the right blackjack table on the right night. Y'all know what I'm talking about. What do you guys think
Yes.
on this?
Well, I think that kind of comes down to, you know, putting people in the mindset for stuff like that. I think I think a lot of times we get really into the all right, we got to teach them this thing. All right, we got to eliminate the competition and make this like a collective experience. But we forget, hey, it's not all or nothing. And it's okay to have the person who wants to, you know, you'll excuse me, but take the piss out of things from time to time. But like a Marvel movie that overstays its welcome, I don't need a joke every 5 seconds. And I think that's always kind of been my difficulty. Like I have a lot of cross experience players whenever I do anything in the gaming sphere. I usually have at least one first timer. Hey, Ganja. I usually have somebody who's been playing forever, who's been playing longer than I've been playing, kind of situation. That also happened in that same game. Like, and so it becomes this like balancing act of I need to keep the vet really engaged with depth, but I also need to make it possible for the brand new person to kind of get their feet and get an understanding. And I have to kind of do that, Philip J. Fry approach. I don't know if people know that reference, but basically, Fry on Futurama is an example of a character that's sole purpose is to let the audience understand what's going on in this future world. He's not really meant to be any more intelligent because the average protagonist needs to be like Philip J. Fry. They need to basically not know what's going on so that you can explain it through the film. And so I have to do that thing for the new player. And I don't want to do too much of it because that could obviously take a lot of the steam out of the story. And so, like, the player that is joking every turn, every second, sarcastically commenting all the time, trying to guarantee figure out the twist. Sometimes, guys, there isn't a twist. Sometimes I'm sitting on a Shaggy Dog mission because I felt like it. Like, that's just. I mean, it's the truth.
One of our party members was a UPS guy.
Yeah, like every single time we've ever done anything, and this is not really necessarily true with Ganja and the group I had him for, but for other ones, it has been a situation where I was literally just sending them on a Shaggy Dog mission because I wanted them to have the time spent with each other, getting used because they weren't role playing enough for my taste. It was like, you guys are really treating this like just a constant dungeon delve. Let me send you guys out in a scenario where you're experiencing each other enough to have time working with each other and talking to each other and making the experience. And so,
careful, man. You're starting to sound like season 2 of Walking Dead.
No, I would never do it like that. That was just like
we didn't get bored and get teased.
I don't park the action. I don't park the action. I'm never a park the action person. You can't use.
On just a minute, we got a serious contextual question in the chat. Okay. Yes, a Shaggy Dog story is a story that looks like it has a plot and it looks like it has some sort of tension and payoff, and no, it doesn't. It's just this is a thing that happened. So an example of a Shaggy Dog story would be everything that happened with Rick and Stark in A Game of Thrones. And it was telegraphed with a little bit because he named his dog Shaggy Dog. It's like, he's been kidnapped. Oh no, we have to do all this. He might be Lord of Winterfell. He's learning how to ride a unicorn. And nope, dead. just dead. He didn't die of dysentery off screen, but he may have. So a Shaggy Dog story is literally a story that has absolutely no effect on anything, and it very rarely has an ending that teaches a lesson or has any reward. It's just, it happened, So go on.
For you anime fans out there, it's called a filler episode.
Yes, yeah. A filler episode. That is the best way to say it.
Yeah, that's the truth. So yeah, I will sometimes just do that because I feel like it, because I want that. I want what you're going to get as a player experience, not necessarily your character's experience. And I think, that tends to deal with the player who decides humor is my personality. And, that's how you kind of, counteract that. But I do want the player that wants to, at the right time, with the right timing, make jokes and lighten things up, because yeah, I can be a very dark storyteller. So Solar is a lot nicer than I am by a lot. Trust me. Like
That
there
is
there are
only when I'm
things.
dealing with players who haven't been playing very long and characters from new players that are below level 10. But
Oh, I
that
don't even just mean in difficulty. I mean in I will gladly introduce terrifying storylines to
ah
what's going on. Like I am not the nice one here. There's a
I'll get with
reason.
that. I'll get with that.
Yeah, there's a
Um
reason my voice sounds like this. I earned it.
yeah.
But that's kind of my thing. Like, I think we need to have that balance. And so sometimes the derailing player might be the nicest person in the world, and they might want to just be trying to make the group feel better, but they also have this drilled down super expert opinion of everything. And as a teacher, you have to recognize that, and that you can't force all your players to have that. So I'm never one that's worried about having that, like, oh, they don't have the knowledge to this minute trivial level, so therefore they're not worthy of my time. I just also have to be aware that every once in a while you're gonna get that player that's just not willing to give you the needed seriousness for the moment, and you gotta know how to handle it, because every one of those players is different. Sometimes they're doing it because they literally are afraid of what you're talking about, and this is the only way for them to get through how afraid they are. Sometimes it's just because they feel like the game's beneath them because of the way it's been played to that point. And so you just got to meet that where it is. As a good like teacher of a thing, it always comes back to meeting your players where they are and as who they are, and understanding that difference between their characters, your NPCs, and them as a person.
Right. Now, I want to talk. All right. Now, it is that time because
Mhm.
I don't want, especially new viewers that are going to be coming on when everybody here starts sharing this video. I don't want new viewers to have this idea that it's all sunshine, roses, and coddling. Okay. We've talked about a lot of bad teaching habits and stuff. And now I want to bring up the elephant in the room. When is it time to get hard? Okay. Because truth be told, all right, all of these things, I present them in a way that it makes it seem like I'm saying, be nice to your students. Be nice. Meet them where they are. Speak the language they need. Blah, 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 blah. Don't call them morons. No, 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 no. No, no, no. No, no, no. No. Okay. Um, I covered this a couple of months ago when I talked about tough love. Now, again, we're talking about efficacy of teaching methods. Sometimes, and I hate to say it, sometimes you have to come down on your students. It's real, it's out there, and it's one of these things that we don't really have much of a choice in. Okay? Um, so how do we come down? Well, I once said on a show, tough love without love is just abuse. And I want to go into that. Okay?
Mm, it's
Quite
awesome.
often, quite often, um, I do have to make fun of a student for what seems to be intentionally not understanding what I'm trying to explain. Okay. However, if you are in a situation where you have to teach a hard lesson, a tough lesson, um, I learned something, or not, I learned something a long time ago based on the kinds of teachers I wanted versus the kind that I had. And I think back to what it was like growing up with a black mom. Now, when she was sober, I got tough love. When she wasn't sober, not as much. Okay. And here's the juxtaposition between the two. Okay. One of the things that I've been watching recently is I've been going through a rewatch of Scrubs because I'm old and sometimes I want to watch stuff that was funny when I was younger. Okay. And my favorite character is Dr. Cox. Okay. This guy was everything that House was supposed to be, but wasn't. Because this dude is a hard teacher. He is such a hard teacher. Name calling, sarcastic stuff like, "Oh, I'm sorry." You know, every time you start talking to me, all I hear is a high pitched wheeze, just wee, wee, wee. Every time they said something that wasn't relevant to the job. However, and this is a really big point, every single time that it was time for him to show that he really believed in who he was teaching, he would let them know that. And when it came down to the real lessons, it's like, yeah, I'm making fun of you on all this stuff because you actually know this. You got this. And oh, I can't go see my boyfriend because yeah, my child rolled over for the first time last night. Oh, yeah, shut up. I didn't see it because I was here, because I'm a doctor and the hospital comes first. There's a lot of things from your personal life that are going to have to go to the wayside because you're here saving lives. That's it, you know. And as mean as he was about it, he taught the lesson in plain language. You know, the toughness was
Mhm.
there, but so was the love. And the love comes from really explaining and really teaching that the stuff that you're hard about is not insulting the person or anything like that. It stresses the importance of the lesson, you know. On the show Kung Fu years and years ago, they were showing Kwai Chang Caine slap a student, and it was like, "Whoa, you're supposed to be teaching me Kung Fu. Why are you slapping me?" And he said, "The slap pushes the lesson in." Now,
Mm.
I'm not down with physically harming my students. Okay, I'm really not. I don't hit them out of punishment and stuff. I do hit them when we're sparring because they're coming to me to learn how to fight. And I'm like, part of fighting is learning how to take a beating. I'm sorry this sucks, but that's part of it. Okay? And sometimes you have to learn how to lose, and these are hard lessons. However, the context of the punishment means everything. Okay? Everything. One of my favorite moments from a movie that no one has seen was from The Renaissance Man, and they gave him a they gave one of the students a test on Hamlet, and he's like, "Okay, so tell me about Laertes." "No, I don't want to talk about Laertes." "Come on, man, you got to do Laertes." "No, man, I don't want to talk about Laertes." "Why don't you want to talk about Laertes?" "Because Laertes never did anything for himself. He never had his own thought, and he ended up dying being a pawn in everybody else's things while not standing up for his own principles, even when his sister died. So I don't want to talk about him. Give me somebody else." And I'm like, okay, all right, that's good. You know, he said the right answer, he explained his stuff, but the teacher was wise enough to ask why, you know, not to just stop the thought halfway and not to punish them. Because at the end of the day, the question that we as teachers, as GMs, as instructors, as whatever it is we are, have to ask, other than why am I frozen? Oh, yeah, because my internet is not great today. Um, is what are we trying to teach? Are we trying to bring out the best in them? Or are we trying to exemplify that we're clever? And you know, this is yet another reflection back to what I talked about ego investment earlier, you know. Um some students need hard teachers because that's all they know. Okay. A really good friend of mine grew up and he is a Palestinian refugee. And his father trained him as though they were always at war. So he reacts much better to "it's important, do it now" than he does to "could you do this, please?" You know, um, I'm from a direct language culture. So when I'm talking to my friends in the suburbs and they say, "Do you want to hand me that box?" I'm like, "No, I don't want to hand you this box. Are you asking me to hand you that box?" Because "please hand me this box" or "hand me that real quick" is a lot different to "do you wanna?" Like, no, I don't want to cut your grass. No, I don't want to help you move. um, so there's a lot of clashing when it comes to that, but it comes down to meeting me where I am, being as hard as I need in order to understand, speaking the language that I speak, and being clear on what people are trying to teach. Okay? Um, this is really all of those things. Anyone who's ever taken any martial art from a teacher who's native to the land that the martial art comes from, i.e., had a teacher from had a kung fu teacher from mainland China, a karate teacher from Japan, a capoeira teacher from Brazil, a boxing teacher from Ireland or the United States, they know exactly what I mean by this. Okay, because in learning these things, hell, any military person, you know, they know that there is a culture with the lesson that the person is being indoctrinated into, and the person has to understand it from where they come. Okay, so do you guys have anything to add to this before we wrap it up today?
No, I think that was a great, finalization, man.
Yeah,
That
that's
was great.
perfectly summed it up for me.
I made one of those concise points. You know, I called up the two people that I know love talking, and I'm like, oh crap, they're silent. I caught them too late in the day.
I mean,
Nah, nah.
I just agree with what multiple was saying, especially when it comes to the cultural representation of lessons that you're learning.
Yeah, I think that's where you really hit it on the head. Is like you have to understand the cultural aspect of the thing you're learning, that it comes from a place beyond just uh, the perfunctory mechanics of it. It's you've got to have that additional piece, and that's with everything. That's with you're not going to understand. Well, honestly, I mean, our show, you're not going to understand some of the jokes that I make on the Illuminati if you've never heard of Warhammer 40K, because I'm going to make some reference to the Imperium of Man literally every episode. Like, you're not going to get, some of the jokes about, the things that we do if you don't listen to hip hop at all, if you haven't had that experience, even just recent, music. There's always a cultural aspect to things that you are introducing someone to, and we have to be careful to make sure that we get those things. I had my professor that at my college undergrad that also turned out to be my EIDL instructor for about 2 years there, was not a native Japanese person, but he had spent all of his time in his education in the subject in Japan. And he was like, I'm going to be able to teach you all to a certain point, but after that, you need to go there and have somebody that can, give you the cultural aspects that go along with this, not just what I can teach you as a lesson. And I always thought that was a slightly profound thing. Like here's this politics professor from my college. It's also, got this very interesting cultural experience, but who's very straight about saying, hey, you can't get everything you need from just me teaching you. You've got to learn the others. We like to call it the side grind in the Monster Hunter community. You got to do the side grind. You just got to do it. And it's the same thing here. You can't just have somebody walk you through the basics and hope to have it a command of things. You've got to learn the culture that goes along with it. That's just with everything. It's not just in gaming. That's not just in music or martial arts. That's in any space that you're being introduced to. You need to understand the culture that surrounds that thing. And if your experience didn't bring you into the same cultural references, well, take the extra time, do the side grind. It's always necessary.
What are you talking about? I completely disagree. Yes, I'm from South Central and on the border of Watts, but I can write Scandinavian metal about being a Viking. I can do that. I can do it. I can be a Viking, But yeah, I want to thank my guests for showing up today because I'm starting to get a feeling right now. And I don't like the feeling that I'm getting, but we have been here for a little while. And yep, here it is. Here it is. Yep, always a thing. So I want to thank my guests, the Ruthless Wonder from the Metropolis Collective, and of course, my man Ganja from the Chat Attack. Tell them where they can find you guys.
Well, you guys find me on Twitter at Red Ganja Guru, or of course, like you mentioned, at the Chat Attack almost every day of the week over on that Twitch channel.
And of course, you can find us both on the Illuminati. on the Metropolis. You can also find me on the playlist in the Metropolis or on social media as The Ruthless Wonder, except for Twitter where I'm The Ruthless 1DER. That's The Ruthless, the number 1DER. Elsewhere, just The Ruthless Wonder. And I'd love to hear from you anytime.
All right. And of course, I want to thank everyone that has shown up today. My good people right over here on the YouTubes. Thank you guys for showing up. Please like, share, subscribe, and all that jazz. And of course, my folks out here in the chat, super thanks to Animal Tees, Clever Little Vixen, we got Glenn Couch, Sofa King Super, the king of living room furniture, because I try and keep all this clean. I want to say hello to our good friends, Ryan Watterson, another Twitch TV viewer, the sad, strange little man who we are happy to have with him. And of course, another friend of ours over here on Twitch. Oh, look at that. Yeah, we got some bits. Love the bits, love the bits, love the bits, oh, love the bits. And of course, our good friend, him, reference from before most of you guys were born. But yeah, our good friend, go with him. And I want to thank everyone else for showing up. This has been awesome, and I am glad that you guys are here. If, quite possibly, if you guys would like to help us out on the channel, then feel free to head over to patreon.com/BID_P, where for less than a bag of hot Cheetos, you can help us keep the doors open. It's not that I want it, it's that I need it. Internet's really expensive down here in the hood. But you know what? We give you things like miniatures, dice bags, dice rollers, who are awesome because we design them and print them in-house and all that jazz. We even pay for shipping. That is one of the things that we do. Also, I want to thank all of you guys for showing up and sharing this. Like, subscribe. All of the links are down here in the description. When it comes to that stuff, we talk about nerdy stuff, from Marvel stuff, DC stuff, role-playing games, tabletop board games, collectible card games. That's right. We even, okay, so we don't really talk about the Yu-Gi-Ohs because I ran out of money by the time that became the popular. And all things geeky for people of color, women, LGBTQ, the differently able, neurodivergent, and of course, the fiscally disenfranchised. And why do I say it that way? Because the trailer park is never more than a mile away from the projects, y'all. So with that, I gotta say, just possibly, if you guys want to send an email with your questions and comments and all that stuff, then feel free to send it to backinthedek@gmail.com. It's BACKINTHEDECK@gmail.com. Hit me up on Twitter to say, hey, what's up? I saw your show and I had a teacher that really touched my life in a certain way. And hit me up on the Instagram. And if you were part of that wretched hive of scum and villainy that we call Facebook, come join Deckers on the Book and show us what games you're playing, ask questions about how to run your own games, or come to us with questions so that everybody can have more fun doing all the stuff they love. And of course, I'm Solar Gray, the cinematic sorcerer, teacher, GM, musician, and all around the cinematic sorcerer guy. And if anybody tells you that you're not welcome at or can't like what you like because of the circumstances of your birth, be it race, religion, creed, gender identity, sexual orientation, disability, or your budget, you tell them that we said to take any of those cards and put them back in the deck. This is Solar Gray, the cinematic sorcerer, saying thank you guys, and we will see you next time on the dark side of the room.
Are we good?